Hello, my name is Dr. Michelle Howard, and today I will present a short video on the psychosocial theory developed by Erikson. Erikson built upon the ideas first developed by Freud's theory of psychosexual development. So the psychosocial theory is similar to Freud's theory in recognizing development throughout childhood stages. But Erikson believed that personality develops throughout the lifespan, and because of this, his theory covers 8 stages rather than just the 5 previously presented by Freud's theory. Additionally, Erikson placed heavy emphasis on how social dynamics influence development in each stage of development, rather than the sexual nature, as Freud had previously stated. This presentation will cover the 8 stages of individual human development proposed by Erikson and how he thought personality development was influenced by biological, psychological, and social factors. So Erikson believed in Freud's building blocks of personality, the id being the primitive part of the mind focused on instant gratification, the ego, the mediator between the id and the superego that develops to help reduce anxiety, and the superego, the part of the mind that strives for ideal or perfect behavior. The difference is that Erikson believed that the ego Freud described was far more than just a mediator between the superego and the id. He saw the ego as a positive driving force in human development and personality. As such, he believed that the ego's main job was to establish and maintain a sense of identity. Subsequently, if a person has a strong ego, then they will have a strong sense of identity. This strong sense of identity helps the person understand where they are in life, what they want to achieve, and how to set positive goals to change in life as challenges present themselves. So Erikson's 8 stages are grouped into developmental stages of life. And during this time, the person is physically and mentally developing throughout the lifespan. The first 4 stages occur during childhood between birth and 11 years of age, and the 5th stage occurs in adolescence, somewhere between the ages of 12 and 18 years of age. And the final 3 stages occur in adulthood, approximately 19 years old until death. So it is important to note that Erikson did not initially define specific age ranges to the stages in his theory. Scholars who have continued study of his work give the loose age parameters that are associated with each stage, but one thing that is agreed upon is that the stages themselves occur during certain periods of time in the person's life. Stages arise as individuals grow and face new decisions and turning points during childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Each stage is defined by 2 opposing psychological conflicts, one positive outcome and one negative outcome. And we'll speak more on that as we examine the stages. The resolution of the conflict develops an ego virtue or strength. If the virtue is adopted, that helps to resolve the current decision or conflict. It also helps in resolving subsequent stages of development and contributes to a stable foundation in the core belief system. So the first stage occurs from birth to approximately the age of 1. This stage is labeled trust versus mistrust and is based upon the consistency of others to provide for the child's basic needs. If trust is developed, then the child feels a sense of confidence and security in the world around them. If mistrust is developed, then the child may be fearful and may develop anxiety and insecurities in their own needs not being met. The second stage occurs approximately around the age of 1 to 3 years old. And this stage is labeled autonomy versus shame and doubt. During this stage, the child becomes more independent, learning to walk and making choices for themselves, like what clothes to wear and what foods to eat. So, if independence is encouraged and supported by the caregiver, autonomy can be achieved. And this leads to feelings of confidence to make choices in the world. If a caregiver is overly controlling or overly critical of choices, then the child will develop feelings of shame and doubt in their ability to survive in the world. So, this can lead to some maladaptive behaviors such as over dependence on others and low self esteem. The third stage to occur in childhood is labeled initiative versus guilt. And this stage happens approximately between the ages of 3 to 6 years old. As the child develops and begins to enter relationships with other children, their independence to initiate friendships and lead begins to grow. If the child is encouraged and given opportunities to practice this ability, then initiative develops. On the other hand, if the child is not given opportunities or maybe harshly criticized throughout this stage, then the child will tend to not engage independently with others and may lack in self-initiative to tasks. The fourth stage in childhood occurs between the ages of 7 to 11 years old. During this time, the child learns to not only initiate goals, but also see them through to completion, and they are able to feel a sense of achievement when they complete their goals. Now, notice that this is about the beginning of first grade. So, not only parents, but teachers and other children play a large role in the child's life at this time. If the child is supported and reinforced in their initiative, then they will begin to feel confident in their abilities to achieve goals. If initiative is not encouraged, or if the child is restricted by negative talk like, you can't do that, or why try, you won't succeed, then the child will feel inferiority. And this can lead to the child not even trying new activities, or they may develop negative self-talk to the point that they will not try to achieve any goals. Now, it's important to say here that not all children will achieve the goal or goals that they're pursuing. However, this stage is more about the support that's given to the child. So even if they fail, but are encouraged to try or comforted on their failure and help to find another option to succeed, the more likely they are to develop an industrious personality. So the fifth stage of the psychosocial theory occurs during puberty. And Erikson considered this the most important stage in personality development due to the transition, both physically and mentally, from childhood to adulthood. So during this stage, the now adolescent experiences many biological changes. This is going to cause confusion in feelings of independence. While they still need to rely on caregivers for necessities, and peers are also becoming a much bigger influence in their life, adolescents are evaluating previously held values taught by their parents and with the peer and societal views and expectations. They're becoming more independent with milestones like driving, working a job, more responsibilities in schools, impending graduation from high school, and what they plan on doing in their future career. So this stage is challenging because they're attempting to reconcile how their life has been as a child and who they want to be as an adult. They're essentially trying to find themselves. So successful attainment of identity is supported by caregivers and peers, but if these supports are not given, feelings of confusion about who they are and what they want and what their role in the world can lead to serious negative consequences if bad decisions are made. So the sixth stage in Erikson's theory happens approximately between the ages of 19 to 29 years of age. Once a young adult has found their own independent identity, they begin to develop more intimate relationships with people outside of their family. So, when an individual is secure within themselves, they begin to seek out long term friendships and lifelong partnerships. When the adult is comfortable with intimacy, then they are ready to commit themselves to these long relationships. Now, on the other hand, isolation can occur if there is a fear of commitment to these relationships. And just like it says on the slide, this will lead to isolation and could lead to loneliness and possibly depression may occur. The seventh stage occurs during middle adulthood, somewhere between the ages of 30 to 64 years of age. During this time is when adults become established in careers, they begin families, they begin to give back to their community in some way because they can see the bigger picture and they're looking at long-term goals. So achieving generativity brings feelings of being productive and becoming involved in a larger community, whether that be like a school, a religious community, larger family projects, those types of things. The alternative to generativity is stagnation. And stagnation is when an adult feels unproductive in society. This can lead to the person having feelings of selfishness and being perceived as self-absorbed. In stagnation, there's a lack of personal growth, and that can lead to what is commonly known as a midlife crisis. The final stage in Erikson's theory occurs from about age 65 until death. And at this stage, which is roughly around retirement age, productivity slows. The person begins to look back, reflect, and evaluate their life. If the person feels that they have accomplished their life goals and that they've been productive during their younger years, then they develop a sense of wisdom and integrity. However, if the person feels that they have made poor decisions or failed to achieve their life goals, they'll feel disappointment, bitterness, and regret. And this can lead to feelings of despair and hopelessness. So here you see a recap of the stages of Erikson's psychosocial development. Now, it's important to note a few things here. First, theories are not hard and fast rules. There have been some criticisms of this theory over the years. One being that there is no specific life experiences or interventions ever mentioned by Erikson as to when or how a person successfully achieves a positive outcome in any one of the stages. The theory is also presented in a linear fashion. However, there's no evidence that a person can't go through these stages more than once. For instance, consider if a person is changing jobs during middle adulthood. They could have feelings of identity confusion that we usually find in adolescence. Along those same lines, it has been proposed that some people could skip the stage altogether. Another interesting criticism is that the research that Erikson conducted was not culturally inclusive. So his observations were based upon white middle-class families from the United States and Europe. So these stages may not necessarily be found universally in different cultures and with different family values and structures. This concludes my presentation today. I thank you for your time and attention.